The power of disciplined thought is the foundation of every success story in human history. Everything you see in the world today that carries the mark of achievement, whether it is a business empire, a breakthrough invention, or a life transformed from despair to greatness, was first created in the realm of thought. But the truth is that thought by itself is not enough. Random ideas floating in the mind are like sparks without fuel, unable to ignite a fire. Undisciplined thinking scatters energy in 1,000 directions, leaving you exhausted yet empty-handed. Disciplined thinking, however, concentrates that same energy into a force so sharp and so powerful that it can cut through any obstacle. When you learn to discipline your thinking, you learn to harness the most potent resource you will ever possess. Most people allow their minds to wander endlessly, chasing every distraction and reacting to every circumstance. They believe they are thinking, but in reality, their minds are running uncontrolled, repeating the same patterns of worry, doubt, and fear. Without discipline, the mind becomes like an untamed animal, powerful, but dangerous and unpredictable. It resists control and creates chaos. Yet when this same mind is disciplined, it becomes a servant of purpose, obeying the commands of your will, building bridges where there were none, and turning dreams into plans and plans into results. The difference between mediocrity and greatness often lies in the ability to direct thought deliberately rather than allowing thought to drift aimlessly. Discipline in thinking means choosing what to dwell upon and refusing to give energy to what weakens you. It is the conscious act of focusing on what builds your future instead of replaying what destroyed your past. This discipline creates clarity where once there was confusion, order where once there was chaos. It transforms your mind into a workshop of creation, a place where only the thoughts that serve your growth are permitted to take root. Every great achievement in the world is nothing more than disciplined thought expressed in action. Without it, even the most talented individual will fail to rise, because talent without disciplined direction is powerless. The greatest minds of history did not differ in capacity from yours. They differed in discipline. They learned the art of holding one idea in the mind until it became a burning obsession. They refused to allow distractions, fears, or doubts to dominate their mental space. This is why they could see possibilities others ignored. This is why they achieved what others thought impossible. They disciplined their minds to hold firm to a vision, even when the world told them it could not be done. That same power lies within you, waiting to be harnessed. If you want to transform your life, begin not by changing your circumstances, but by disciplining your thinking. Ask yourself, where is my mind dwelling right now? Am I feeding it with images of failure or with images of success? Am I allowing it to scatter across countless trivialities, or am I gathering its power into one focused stream of energy directed toward my highest purpose? Your answer to these questions determines the quality of your life, for your outer world is nothing but a reflection of the discipline or chaos that exists in your inner world. To discipline your thinking is to take control of the steering wheel of your destiny. It is to stop being a passenger driven by random emotions and external influences, and to become the driver who directs the journey with intention and clarity. Every time you discipline your thoughts, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every time you allow them to run wild, you surrender that power. The choice is always yours. When you choose discipline, you choose strength, order, and creation. When you neglect discipline, you choose weakness, disorder, and destruction. The mind will always produce. It is a factory that never shuts down. The only question is, will it produce results you want or results you fear? The answer depends entirely on the discipline you bring to your thinking. The mind is the master key to everything you seek in life. Before wealth appears, before opportunities show themselves, before relationships blossom, it begins with thought. The mind is the soil, and every result in your life is the harvest of seeds planted there. If the seeds are careless, scattered, and inconsistent, the harvest will be disappointing. If the seeds are chosen with care and cultivated with discipline, the harvest will be abundant. This is why mastering your thinking is the single most important step toward mastering your destiny. Your circumstances may shift, the world around you may be unpredictable, but the one constant source of power is your ability to think with direction and discipline. Without this, every dream remains a fantasy, and every goal fades into frustration. When you recognize the mind as a master key, you also recognize that it has the power to lock or unlock doors. If you allow it to dwell on limitation, it locks the door to possibility. If you direct it towards solutions, it unlocks paths that once seemed invisible. The undisciplined mind, left unchecked, will default to fear, negativity, and doubt, because the world constantly feeds it these influences. But the disciplined mind becomes a guardian, refusing to allow poison to enter its gates. This discipline is not just about positive thinking, it is about selective thinking. It is the deliberate act of choosing thoughts that align with your highest vision and refusing to allow the rest to linger. Just as a gardener pulls out weeds before they choke the crop, you must train your mind to reject every thought that does not serve your growth. Every empire, every invention, every breakthrough was once nothing more than a thought held firmly in the mind. Greatness does not begin with resources, connections, or luck. It begins with disciplined imagination. The airplane existed in the disciplined thought of determined minds before it ever touched the sky. Electricity was a disciplined vision before it lit a single room. Fortune is first constructed in the mind before it is constructed in reality. This is why the mind is the true source of wealth. To ignore this truth is to live as a prisoner of chance, tossed by circumstances and controlled by external conditions. To accept this truth is to realize that you hold the master key in your hands every day. The question is not whether the key works, it always does. The question is whether you have the discipline to use it. Your mind can either be the architect of your greatness or the engineer of your downfall. The difference lies in how you train it. Do you let it consume whatever the world feeds it, or do you choose its diet with care? Do you let it wander through dark corridors of fear, or do you direct it into rooms filled with light and possibility? The discipline you bring to your thinking determines whether the key opens doors to success or slams them shut. You already hold the key. You already possess the tool that can reshape your entire existence. All that remains is to discipline your mind to use it with purpose. Once you do, no lock can resist you, no barrier can hold you, and no dream will be too far to reach. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not outside of you. It is not the economy, it is not the critics, and it is not the competition. The greatest enemy is the uncontrolled flow of your own thoughts. A mind without discipline becomes a breeding ground for fear, for doubt, and for hesitation. It whispers lies in your ear that you are not enough, that you cannot succeed, that failure is inevitable. Left unchecked, these thoughts multiply, weaving a web of limitation so tight that even the most gifted person becomes trapped in it. The tragedy is not that life has denied people opportunities, but that their own uncontrolled thinking has convinced them not to reach for those opportunities. The moment you allow thoughts to drift without direction, you hand over the keys of your destiny to fear, and fear never leads you where you want to go. Uncontrolled thinking is subtle. It does not announce itself with alarms or warnings. It seeps quietly into your daily habits and choices. It disguises itself as caution, as practicality, as realism, but beneath the surface, it is nothing more than fear in disguise. It convinces you to delay action, to stay comfortable, to remain average. It magnifies small problems into impossible obstacles, and shrinks your vision until your dreams no longer feel worth pursuing. This is how many people waste their lives, not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they never disciplined their thinking long enough to silence the enemy within. They let the mind wander into darkness, and darkness became their reality. If you do not control your thoughts, they will control you. And when they control you, they will not lead you toward growth. They will pull you downward into stagnation, regret, and wasted potential. Think about how many times you have wanted to act, but your mind talked you out of it. Think about how many moments of courage were stolen by the voice of doubt echoing inside your head. That is the power of uncontrolled thinking. It robs you of your strength before you even step onto the battlefield. It convinces you to surrender before the fight begins. It locks you in a prison where the walls are made not of stone, but of your own repeated thoughts of weakness. Yet the very fact that the enemy lies within is also your greatest advantage, because if the problem is inside, the solution is inside as well. You do not have to wait for the world to change, for someone else to rescue you, or for circumstances to shift in your favor. You need only to discipline your mind, to catch those thoughts the moment they appear, and to redirect them toward strength instead of weakness. Every time you take control of your thoughts, you weaken the enemy within. Every time you refuse to let fear dominate, you reclaim a piece of your power. This is not a one-time battle. It is a daily practice, a constant discipline, but once you master it, the enemy within loses its grip, and the prison doors swing open. Your mind becomes your ally, not your adversary, and with that, nothing can stop you from rising to the heights you were meant to reach. The first step toward disciplining your thinking is awareness. You cannot control what you do not first observe. Most people live their entire lives without ever examining the constant stream of thoughts running through their minds. They wake up, they move through their day, and they go to sleep, all while their inner dialogue continues unchecked, shaping their emotions, their actions, and ultimately their results. Awareness is the moment you stop being a passive participant in this process and begin to pay attention. It is the act of catching your thoughts in motion, noticing the stories you tell yourself, and recognizing the invisible patterns that influence every choice you make. Without awareness, you are driven by your thoughts without ever realizing it. With awareness, you take the first step toward driving them yourself. Becoming aware of your thinking requires honesty and courage. You must be willing to confront the fact that much of what passes through your mind does not serve you. You must be willing to see how often you feed yourself fear instead of faith, doubt instead of confidence, and hesitation instead of courage. This is not about judgment. It is about clarity. You cannot fix a pattern you refuse to acknowledge. By shining light on the thoughts that hold you back, you take away their power to control you in the shadows. Awareness is like turning on the light in a dark room. Suddenly you see the obstacles, but you also see the path forward. You cannot discipline your thinking until you are willing to see it clearly. When you practice awareness, you begin to notice how thoughts repeat themselves. Fearful thoughts recycle the same doubts. Negative thoughts echo the same failures. Uncontrolled thinking moves in circles, keeping you trapped in the same place. But once you are aware, you can break the cycle. You can interrupt the pattern the moment it appears. Instead of letting a fearful thought spiral into paralysis, you can catch it, challenge it, and replace it. Instead of letting a negative idea dominate your mood, you can notice it and refuse to give it energy. This is how awareness becomes power. It creates a gap between you and your thoughts, a space where choice exists. In that space, you decide whether to feed the thought or starve it, whether to accept it as truth or dismiss it as noise. Awareness does not mean perfection. It does not mean that negative or fearful thoughts will vanish overnight. It means that you will no longer be blind to them. It means you will no longer let them run your life without resistance. Every moment of awareness is a victory because it interrupts the automatic patterns that have been guiding you for years. And with enough practice, this awareness grows stronger. Soon you find yourself observing your mind with clarity, catching harmful thoughts before they gain momentum, and deliberately choosing the ones that lead you toward strength. Awareness is the beginning of mastery. It is the foundation on which the discipline of thinking is built. Without it, you are asleep at the wheel of your destiny. With it, you awaken to the reality that you can take control, and once you do, your entire life begins to shift. Once you become aware of your thoughts, the next step is learning to direct them. Awareness shows you what is happening, but direction decides where you are going. The human mind is like a river. It will always flow. Left unattended, it may scatter into shallow streams, lose its force, and flood into places that create destruction. But when the river is guided, when it is channeled with intention, it can generate power, nourish fields, and build civilizations. In the same way, your thinking must be directed toward what you want, not left to wander into everything you fear. This is the discipline of focus. It is the deliberate act of saying, I choose where my mind goes. I decide what I dwell on. I control the direction of my own energy. Energy flows where attention goes. If your attention is consumed with problems, those problems will expand. If your mind is filled with limitations, those limitations will tighten around you like chains. But if you direct your thoughts towards solutions, possibilities, and opportunities, your energy begins to work for you instead of against you. This is not wishful thinking. It is discipline. It is the recognition that the mind magnifies whatever you feed it, just as sunlight magnified through a lens can burn through steel. Thought magnified through discipline can burn through obstacles. Most people scatter their energy across endless distractions, chasing every noise and every worry. But the disciplined thinker channels that same energy into a single purpose, and in doing so creates power. Directing your thinking also means refusing to feed what weakens you. A thought only grows when you give it attention. Fear only grows when you keep rehearsing it. Doubt only becomes stronger when you dwell on it. The moment you withdraw your attention, the thought begins to die. This is why directing thought is not only about what you choose to focus on, but also what you refuse to entertain. It is the act of guarding your mental space, of saying, this thought has no place in me. The discipline lies not in force, but in choice. You cannot stop thoughts from appearing, but you can decide which ones deserve to stay. By making that decision consistently, you take command of your inner world. The truth is simple. Your life follows the direction of your dominant thoughts. Every achievement, every failure, every turning point is the result of where your mind was directed. If you want change, you cannot wait for circumstances to shift. You must shift the flow of your own thinking. Hold your mind steady on the vision you desire, and it will begin to carve pathways toward it. Refuse to let it drift into fear, and fear loses its power. Every moment you direct your thinking, you shape your destiny. The river of your mind will always flow. The only question is, will it wander aimlessly into waste, or will it be guided with discipline into greatness? Disciplining your mind is not only about resisting weakness, it is about transforming it into strength. Many people think mental discipline means suppressing emotions, ignoring fear, or pretending doubts do not exist. But suppression only buries these thoughts deeper, allowing them to resurface stronger. True discipline is substitution. It is the conscious choice to replace what weakens you with what empowers you. Every time fear arises, you have the chance to replace it with courage. Every time doubt whispers, you can replace it with belief. Every time confusion clouds your path, you can replace it with clarity. Discipline is the practice of training your mind to make these substitutions automatically, so that weakness loses its grip on you and strength becomes your default state. The mind cannot hold two opposing thoughts with equal strength at the same time. If fear dominates, courage cannot fully rise. If doubt consumes, belief cannot flourish. But when you deliberately replace weakness with its opposite, you shift the balance of power. Imagine standing at a crossroads inside your own mind. One path leads to hesitation, the other to action. One leads to despair, the other to hope. With discipline, you choose which path to walk, and with repetition, the choice becomes habit. Over time, courage becomes more natural than fear, belief more natural than doubt, persistence more natural than giving up. This is how disciplined thinking transforms who you are at the core. It builds a new mental identity rooted in strength. Every moment of substitution trains your subconscious. The subconscious is like fertile soil. It does not judge what seeds are planted. It will grow weeds if you feed it negativity, but it will also grow mighty trees if you feed it empowerment. When you replace weakness with strength consistently, you reprogram the subconscious to favor power over weakness. This does not happen in one day, but it happens with practice. Repetition is the tool, and discipline is the hand that wields it. You are not suppressing thoughts. You are retraining the mind to serve your highest vision instead of sabotaging it. What once felt like effort eventually becomes automatic. Where you once reacted with fear, you now respond with courage. Where you once hesitated, you now act with conviction. This transformation is the essence of disciplined thinking. It is not about pretending negativity does not exist. It is about refusing to let it dominate when strength is available as an alternative. Weakness will always present itself because it is part of the human experience, but strength is always available too. The disciplined mind does not deny weakness. It chooses strength in spite of it, and every time you choose strength, you build momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity shapes destiny. In the end, your greatness will not be measured by the absence of fear or doubt, but by your disciplined ability to replace them with courage and belief. This is how the mind becomes your ally, how your thoughts become your servants, and how weakness becomes fuel for unstoppable strength. Repetition is the secret weapon of disciplined thinking. The human mind is shaped not by what you do once, but by what you do consistently. A single thought, repeated again and again, carves grooves into the brain until it becomes habit. This is how beliefs are formed, this is how identity is built, and this is how destiny is shaped. The undisciplined person allows repetition to work against them. They replay their failures over and over in their minds. They rehearse fear, they rehearse doubt, they rehearse excuses, until these patterns become so deeply ingrained that they feel natural. What begins as a single weak thought becomes a chain that binds them, only because they allowed repetition to strengthen it. But the disciplined thinker understands that repetition is a tool. It can imprison or it can liberate. It can weaken or it can empower. The choice is yours. When you deliberately repeat empowering thoughts, you begin to rewire your mind. At first it may feel unnatural. Replacing fear with courage may feel forced. Repeating affirmations of belief may feel uncomfortable. Directing your thoughts toward vision may feel like effort, but repetition is stronger than resistance. The mind may resist at first, but the more you repeat, the more it accepts. Just as water shapes stone through constant flow, disciplined repetition shapes the mind into something stronger, sharper, and unbreakable. This is why persistence in mental discipline is non-negotiable. It is not enough to catch a negative thought once or to choose courage one time. You must practice it daily, hourly, moment by moment, until strength becomes second nature. Think of how habits are formed in every area of life. The body becomes stronger through repeated exercise. Skills improve through repeated practice. The same principle governs the mind. The more often you direct your thoughts toward empowerment, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you do not have to force courage. It rises automatically. You do not have to force focus. It becomes instinctive. The subconscious, trained by repetition, begins to work for you instead of against you. What was once effort becomes ease, and what was once struggle becomes your standard. This is the gift of repetition. It is the bridge between effort and mastery, between conscious discipline and subconscious power. Every great transformation requires repetition. It is not the grand gesture that changes your life, but the small disciplines practiced consistently. One disciplined thought repeated daily will outweigh 100 scattered thoughts that come and go. Do not underestimate the power of this principle. The undisciplined will call it boring, but the disciplined know it is freedom. For when you repeat strength, you become strong. When you repeat belief, you become unshakable. When you repeat focus, you become unstoppable. And when you repeat greatness, you become great. Repetition is the architect of destiny, and disciplined thinking is the blueprint it follows. Your future is built one thought at a time, and every time you repeat the right thought, you lay another brick on the foundation of your greatness. Disciplining your thinking also requires building boundaries around your mind. Just as you would not leave the doors of your home open for strangers to enter freely, you cannot leave the gates of your mind unguarded. Every day, countless influences attempt to invade your thoughts. The news floods you with fear. Social media fills you with comparison. People around you project their doubts and limitations onto you. If you allow all of this to enter unchecked, your mental space becomes crowded with noise, and noise kills focus. Discipline means creating filters. It means deciding what you allow into your inner world and what you firmly shut out. Without boundaries, your mind becomes a dumping ground for the world's negativity. With boundaries, it becomes a sanctuary where only strength, clarity, and vision are permitted to reside. A disciplined thinker understands that the mind is too precious to be contaminated with every influence. Guarding it is not about arrogance. It is about protection. You would not let someone pour poison into your drinking water, so why allow poisonous thoughts into your mental space? Every book you read, every conversation you entertain, every message you consume is either planting seeds of growth or seeds of destruction. The boundary is your choice. You decide what stays and what goes. You decide which voices are allowed to echo in your mind and which are silenced before they gain power. Boundaries do not limit you. They liberate you. They free you from the endless distractions and destructive influences that weaken your thinking. Building mental boundaries also requires courage, because it often means rejecting what is popular. The world celebrates distraction. It rewards conformity. It normalizes negativity. To guard your mind, you must be willing to stand apart. You must be willing to walk away from conversations that add no value, to disconnect from influences that drain your energy, and to refuse access to anything that does not serve your vision. At first, it may feel isolating, but over time, you will realize it is not isolation, it is elevation. By protecting your mental space, you rise above the noise, and clarity replaces confusion. Focus becomes sharp, and strength becomes steady. This is the fruit of discipline through boundaries. Every person who has ever achieved greatness built strong mental boundaries. They understood that the mind cannot grow in an environment polluted with weakness. They shielded themselves from the chatter of the crowd so they could hear the voice of their own vision. They disciplined their minds not only by choosing what to think, but also by choosing what not to think. You have the same choice. Either you let the world invade and control your mental space, or you build walls strong enough to protect your purpose. Discipline demands that you choose carefully. Guard your mind as the most valuable possession you own, because it is. Once you master your boundaries, you master your focus. And once you master your focus, you master the direction of your entire life. Focus is the crown jewel of disciplined thinking. The mind has immense power, but that power is wasted when it is scattered in 100 directions. When you allow your attention to jump from one distraction to another, your energy weakens. You become busy but not effective, active but not productive. True power comes from focus, the ability to hold your attention steady on one goal, one vision, one purpose, until it manifests into reality. A magnifying glass, when moved randomly, warms nothing, but when it is held still, it channels the sun's rays into fire. The same principle applies to your mind. Discipline gives you the strength to hold your focus steady, and focus gives your thoughts the ability to burn through every obstacle. Scattered thinking is the greatest thief of potential. It makes you chase trivialities while neglecting what truly matters. It fills your days with activity, but leaves your life empty of results. The disciplined mind, however, knows the difference between noise and necessity. It refuses to be pulled in every direction by every distraction. It chooses the few things that matter most and locks onto them with unwavering attention. This is why focused individuals appear almost unstoppable. They have trained their minds to ignore everything that does not serve their vision. They have disciplined themselves to protect their attention as though it were treasure, because in truth it is. Your life is determined by where your attention lies. If your attention is scattered, your results will be scattered. If your attention is focused, your results will be extraordinary. Focus is not always easy. The world is designed to steal it from you. Every sound, every notification, every demand competes for your attention, but discipline allows you to reclaim it. It gives you the ability to say no to distractions, to temptations, to anything that dilutes your purpose. Every time you say no, you strengthen your focus, and every time you strengthen your focus, you amplify your power. Discipline means you do not give in to the urgent at the expense of the important. It means you resist the temptation to scatter your mind and instead concentrate it like a laser on what moves you closer to your vision. This kind of focus creates breakthroughs. It creates results that ordinary effort can never achieve. Your destiny is not built by what you occasionally think about. It is built by what you consistently focus on. The thoughts you hold most often become the reality you live most fully. If you want greatness, you cannot afford to let your focus drift to mediocrity. If you want abundance, you cannot allow your attention to settle on lack. Hold your mind firmly on the life you seek, and discipline yourself to return to it again and again, no matter how many distractions arise. This is the power of focus. It is not a momentary burst of attention. It is the steady flame that burns until your vision becomes real. When you master focus through disciplined thinking, you unlock a force so powerful that nothing outside of you can stand against it. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against the world, but against yourself. It is not against competitors, enemies, or critics. It is against your own undisciplined mind. Within you exist two forces, one that pulls you toward greatness and another that drags you toward weakness. One whispers courage, the other whispers excuses. One pushes you to rise, the other tempts you to rest. This is the battle within, and it is fought every day in your thoughts. The difference between those who win and those who lose is not found in talent, luck, or opportunity. It is found in how they handle this inner war. Victory does not come by chance. It comes by choosing discipline over comfort, order over chaos, and strength over surrender. Every thought is a soldier in this inner battle. Negative thoughts left unchecked become traitors that weaken your resolve. They tell you that you are not enough, that you should stop trying, that success is for others but not for you. Positive, disciplined thoughts, however, are warriors of light. They strengthen your spirit. They tell you to keep moving, to endure the storm, to believe in your vision even when results are invisible. The war inside your mind determines the outcome of your life. If you allow doubt, fear, and laziness to dominate your inner world, they will conquer you. But if you arm yourself with discipline, courage, and unwavering focus, you will win not only over your thoughts, but over the circumstances of your life. The undisciplined mind is like an open battlefield, vulnerable to attack from every direction. It reacts to everything criticism, temptation, failure, and in doing so it exhausts itself. But the disciplined mind is a fortress. It is not easily shaken. It does not react to every passing thought or fleeting feeling. It chooses its battles wisely, and it always chooses victory. This is why discipline is so powerful. It transforms your mind into a weapon, sharp, precise, and unstoppable. The greatest victories in history were not won with sheer numbers, but with strategy, focus, and discipline. The same law applies to your life. The strength of your inner world will always determine the strength of your outer world. Every day you wake up, the battle begins again. It begins in the first choice you make whether to rise early or stay in bed, whether to focus on your goals or drift into distraction, whether to confront your fears or hide from them. Small choices shape the war. Discipline gives you the power to win those small battles, and by winning them consistently, you win the war. Understand this: success is not the absence of struggle. It is the mastery of struggle. It is choosing victory inside, even when the outside world tempts you to quit. When you conquer the battle within, no external force can defeat you. The enemy outside will never be stronger than the enemy you refuse to face inside. But when you face it, and when you master it, you become unstoppable. Mental strength is not something you are born with, it is something you build. Just like muscles in the body grow stronger with resistance, your mind becomes stronger through discipline, challenge, and consistent effort. Every obstacle you face is not an enemy but a training ground. Every difficulty is an opportunity to sharpen your thoughts, to train your focus, and to deepen your inner power. But this strength does not appear overnight. It is not given, it is forged. It is created in the moments when you resist distractions, when you push past excuses, when you choose to act even though you feel like stopping. Each time you discipline your thinking, you are laying another brick in the fortress of your mind. Day by day, choice by choice, you become stronger, more resilient, and more unshakable. Mental strength requires endurance. It requires patience with yourself, and it requires the ability to see beyond the immediate moment. Weakness seeks comfort, but strength seeks growth. To build mental strength, you must be willing to endure the temporary discomfort of focus, sacrifice, and persistence. This is why so few achieve greatness, because it demands more than most are willing to give. But understand this truth: what feels like sacrifice today becomes freedom tomorrow. The hours spent disciplining your thoughts will repay you in years of clarity, success, and control over your destiny. Every moment of disciplined thinking is an investment that multiplies with time. While others are prisoners of distraction, you will walk free in the power of your own mind. Strength of mind also comes from what you allow yourself to consume. Just as the body becomes what you feed it, the mind becomes what you allow to enter it. Negative voices, toxic influences, constant noise, they weaken the mind, drain your focus, and corrupt your thinking. But positive ideas, empowering knowledge, and uplifting environments strengthen your mind, giving it clarity and direction. To build mental strength, you must guard your inner world with discipline. Do not allow every thought or opinion to enter your mental space. Protect it, feed it with wisdom, and watch it grow unbreakable. You cannot build strength by accident. You build it by being intentional with everything you allow to shape you. The strongest minds are not those who avoid struggle, but those who embrace it and rise above it. They are not minds that never fall, but minds that refuse to stay down. Every time you choose discipline over weakness, every time you control your thoughts instead of letting them control you, you are building power. Power that cannot be shaken by doubt, power that cannot be broken by fear, power that cannot be taken by failure. This is the true meaning of mental strength. It is not simply surviving the storm. It is learning to stand tall in it, to thrive in it, and to grow stronger because of it. Build this strength daily, and you will discover that there is no force on earth that can stand against a disciplined mind. Discipline is often mistaken for restriction, but in truth, discipline is the path to freedom. An undisciplined mind is a prisoner to impulses, distractions, and fleeting desires. It reacts to everything, pulled in every direction, never truly in control. But a disciplined mind is free. It is not enslaved by the noise of the world, nor by the chaos of emotions. Freedom does not come from doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That is not freedom, it is bondage to weakness. True freedom comes when you are in command of your thoughts, when you can choose your focus, your actions, and your direction without being controlled by temporary feelings or outside forces. A disciplined thinker is free because nothing owns them, not fear, not laziness, not the opinions of others. The undisciplined person may believe they are free because they follow every impulse, but what they do not see is that they are shackled. Shackled to procrastination, shackled to distraction, shackled to the endless cycle of regret. They are not living, they are reacting. But the disciplined person chooses their path with clarity. They are free from the need for approval, free from the grip of excuses, free from the endless chase of meaningless pleasures. This is the paradox of life. Discipline, which at first feels like limitation, is actually the key that unlocks your highest form of freedom. By mastering your mind, you unlock the ability to create your own life instead of being dragged by circumstance. Every decision you make with discipline adds to your freedom. When you discipline your thoughts toward success, you free yourself from the chains of mediocrity. When you discipline your mind to stay focused, you free yourself from the wasted years of distraction. When you discipline your emotions, you free yourself from the storms of regret and self-sabotage. Freedom is not found in abandoning structure. It is found in creating the structure that allows you to live with purpose. The disciplined mind walks through life with strength and clarity, while the undisciplined mind stumbles through life, confused and enslaved. This is why discipline is not punishment. It is the greatest act of self-respect, the decision to give yourself the life you were meant to live. When you understand the connection between discipline and freedom, everything changes. You no longer see discipline as something that takes away joy, but as something that multiplies it. You no longer resist the effort it requires, because you see the power it gives you. Discipline is the foundation upon which freedom is built. Without it, you are lost, powerless, and easily controlled by your weakest desires. With it, you rise, you create, and you live fully. This is the truth. The mind that is disciplined is the mind that is free. And when your mind is free, there are no limits to what you can achieve. Mastery of thought is the highest level of self-mastery. It is the point where discipline has transformed your mind from a restless servant into a powerful commander. At this level, you are no longer pulled by fear, doubt, or weakness. You no longer react blindly to every challenge, but instead respond with precision, clarity, and strength. Mastery of thought means you are in control of the very thing that shapes your entire reality, your mind. Everything you achieve, everything you become, begins in thought. To master your thoughts is to master your life. The undisciplined mind drifts, but the mastered mind creates. The undisciplined mind follows, but the mastered mind leads. This is the difference between those who live ordinary lives and those who rise above to greatness. To reach mastery, you must understand that every thought is either a seed of growth or a seed of destruction. Each one carries the potential to build your future or to break it. The majority of people allow their minds to scatter, filled with negativity, confusion, and self-doubt. They allow their thoughts to drift wherever emotions take them. But the few who discipline their minds, the few who guide their thoughts with intention, become masters. They direct their thoughts like an artist guides a brush, painting the future they desire. They understand that thought is energy, and that energy, when focused with discipline, shapes reality. This is not a gift given to some. It is a power within all, waiting to be claimed through mastery. Mastery of thought also requires awareness. You cannot control what you are not aware of. Most people live unaware of the patterns running in their minds, unaware of how much fear or limitation has shaped their decisions. But mastery demands that you watch your thoughts closely, that you observe them without letting them control you. When you see a thought of weakness, you replace it with one of strength. When you hear the voice of doubt, you silence it with conviction. Over time, this becomes automatic. The mind you once struggled to control now serves you. The discipline that once felt heavy becomes natural. This is mastery, the ability to think with clarity, to choose your thoughts with power, and to live from a place of inner command. When you achieve mastery of thought, you are no longer a victim of life. You are the architect of it. You are no longer shaped by circumstance, you shape circumstance. You are no longer held back by fear. You walk forward with courage. This is the ultimate goal of discipline, the ultimate reward for the battle within. It is freedom, power, and clarity combined. It is the ability to turn vision into reality, to transform obstacles into stepping stones, to create a life that reflects your highest self. Mastery of thought is not an end but a way of living. It is the foundation of success, the root of freedom, and the key to greatness. Discipline leads you here, and once you arrive, nothing can stop you. To truly grasp mastery of thought, you must recognize that this state is not reached through a single decision, but through a lifetime of disciplined practice. It is not enough to wish for control over your mind. You must earn it through consistent effort, through the daily act of training your thoughts as one trains the body. Just as an athlete strengthens muscles by repeated action, the mind is strengthened through repeated discipline. The more you practice controlling your thoughts, the more natural it becomes. At first, you will fail often. The old patterns of weakness and distraction will try to pull you back, and you may feel as though progress is slow. But do not mistake slow progress for no progress. Every small victory matters. Every time you catch a negative thought and replace it with a positive one, you are moving closer to mastery. Every time you hold your focus on a vision instead of allowing your mind to wander, you are forging strength. Over weeks, months, and years, this effort compounds into unshakable control. Mastery of thought is not achieved by the careless, but by the relentless. The seeds you plant in your mind every day are not immediately visible, but they are always growing. If you feed your mind with discipline, strength, and courage, those seeds will eventually grow into a towering tree of resilience. But if you neglect your thoughts, if you allow fear, self-doubt, and negativity to dominate your inner world, those seeds will also grow into chains that bind you. Mastery of thought is the awareness that you are always planting seeds, whether you mean to or not. The mind never rests. It is always working, always absorbing, always building. If you do not guide it, it will be guided by whatever enters it, by the noise of society, the criticism of others, or the weakness of your past habits. To become a master, you must become intentional. You must decide what grows in the garden of your mind and ruthlessly remove what does not belong. This is the discipline that few will practice, but those who do create lives that others cannot comprehend. Self-awareness becomes your greatest weapon in this process. Without it, you are blind to your own mental patterns. Many people believe they are thinking freely, yet their thoughts are nothing more than echoes of fear, conditioning, or old failures. But when you develop awareness, you begin to see clearly. You recognize when your mind is slipping into weakness. You catch yourself when doubt begins to creep in. And because of this awareness, you are able to redirect, to replace, to choose. This is where true power begins, when you realize you are not your thoughts, but the master of them. You are not the prisoner of what enters your mind. You are the gatekeeper. Mastery comes when you stop living as a passive receiver of thoughts and instead become the deliberate creator of them. Awareness, discipline, and intentional focus transform the mind into a tool of creation rather than destruction. Once mastery of thought becomes your way of life, your entire reality shifts. You no longer chase success. It flows toward you because your mind is aligned with clarity and vision. You no longer fear failure. It becomes a lesson because your thoughts interpret it as growth instead of defeat. You no longer see obstacles as permanent. They become temporary challenges because your mind has been trained to think in solutions instead of problems. Mastery of thought turns life itself into a canvas on which you paint your future with intention and confidence. The storms of life may still come, but they cannot shake the fortress of your mind. You stand unshaken, unbroken, and unstoppable because you know that no external force can overpower a mind that has been mastered. This is the destination of discipline, the crown of all mental victories, and the foundation of a life of greatness.